You're watching The HoneyDew with Ryan Sickler at your mom's house.
Welcome back to The HoneyDew, y'all. We're over here at Studio Jeans doing it at your mom's house. I'm Ryan Sickler. The website is ryansickler.com. Go sign up for the email list. And let's have a moment here because I want to talk to you guys and have a real moment for a second. This is my last episode here in the YMH studio. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody. Tom, Christina, Dr. Drew, Nadab, Chris, Annie, Zolo, everybody here that's helped out. I appreciate everybody. You guys are the shit. Thank you all the YMH fans. I'm not leaving the channel or anything like that. You'll find me under the featured channels with Tom and Christina over there, but I'm just saying thank you. Moving next week actually will be episode 1 at the new studio, and I hope you like it. I didn't cut corners. You'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit. So the video will be moving to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/rsickler. You can go and in a link here describing the show, there'll be a link there at the end of the show. You can click on the link. Also, when you click on my featured channel under YMH, it'll take you there anyway if you don't know how to find it. All right? iTunes. I know it's a fucking issue. I've been dealing with it for 5 months. No, every single one of you that hits me up and tells me about it, do I like it? No, I don't like it. So what I did was show you the bullshit you have to deal with sometimes. I posted the email they sent me. If you're having a problem and you've got free time during the quarantine, hey, look and see what they say to do. If enough people report it, maybe they'll get at it and fix it. All right? I'm trying my ass off to get it fixed. It's ridiculous, but I'm trying. So yes, I'm aware. Yes, I'm trying. No, I'm not stoked about it. What else I want to tell you about? There's no stand-up schedules. This motherfucking quarantine hair continues to grow. And the honeydewpodcast.com is where you can get all the honeydew info. All right? You know that. And I can't thank you enough, again, you guys, not only for your support, but for fucking Night Pants Nation. I'm telling you, you guys are buying the shit out of Night Pants. I saw a stat the other day that pajamas are up like 140% or something like that. So I know we're contributing to that shit. Sales and jeans are down. You know what I mean? Like, we are contributing to the sale of Night Pants, and I can't thank you enough for that. The HoneyDew with y'all, okay? That's going to release, the first episode will be Thursday, June 4th. It's my Patreon show where I talk to you guys. I've already recorded an episode. I started with a friend of mine back home just to get the kinks ironed out and everything. We want to be running smooth when we get to you guys. I'm reading through your emails now. I will be contacting some of you, and we'll do some episodes together. I'll be blasting links out. You'll see it. It's $5 a month. That's it. One tier, not doing anything else. You'll get an episode a week. And that'll be starting Thursday, June 4th, and then every Thursday after that. So you'll get audio on Mondays. You're going to get video on Tuesdays of the HoneyDew. And then on Thursdays, you're going to get video, Patreon, the HoneyDew with y'all. Okay? Okay. This show has been one of my favorite things to do. I love sitting down with people, hearing about their stories. I love sitting with old friends and finding out shit I didn't know even about them, or maybe they weren't ready to tell me then. You know, I say these are the stories behind the storytellers, and today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, has brought us a list. And not only did he bring us a list, he brought us some motherfucking donuts. All right, 12 Dunkin' Donuts. He is human Prozac. Here he is, back on the HoneyDew, y'all. Steve Simeone, everybody.
How are you, buddy?
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I needed this, though.
I know.
It's so good to see you.
I know. I just want to hang out with you. Might as well sit down and talk about.
Yeah, we'll put a microphone in front of us, but let's just.
Well, I want to tell everybody, first of all, please plug whatever you want, and then we'll get at how.
I got just my podcast, Good Times.
Good Times, which is literally a good time. I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah, I want to get you back on.
I'll do it anytime you want.
I just need to hang out with buddies.
I know. It's getting to be a lot. But you called me yesterday. I know, obviously we record these at different times, but yesterday morning you called me, and it was early. I had my daughter. I didn't get it, and I call you back, and you're like, hey, man, I'm going on YMH today. And I was like, are you going in the studio? You're like, yeah. I'm like, good for you. That'll be really good for you. And you're like, they want me to talk about wrestling. And I just started laughing right away. But then you said, you're so nice. You're like, I want to bring them some food. Do they have any dietary restrictions? I'm like, it's Tom and Christina. Like, they don't really have dietary restrictions. And here at YMH, if you put, I bet you the last buffet after the coronavirus would exist here. They'd be tearing it up out there.
Shoney's rejects.
Oh, yeah, all in here. Here's the shit nobody eats from Sizzler. These guys would tear it up out there.
Well, I didn't know how many people worked here. Yeah. I talked to Nadav, and he was like, there's going to be 7 people. But then I didn't want to, like, bring something, have people be like, I'm allergic, or, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just wanted to
try to
bring... Of course,
you are considerate. You think about
Yeah,
like,
I just wanted to bring a hug people could eat.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so I went to my favorite pizza place and my favorite Italian deli. And that's what I wanted to do for you. I wanted to bring you sandwiches from Domingo's, but we're doing this so early in the morning. I'm like, surprise donuts.
Look, this is today. I told Nadav when I walked in, it's 9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
It's 9 motherfucking 30 a.m.
my third cup of
This
coffee.
is the outside of like morning radio shit. This is the earliest comedy I've ever done, and I was so excited to fucking see you. Yeah. Rolled in the Mr. T shirt.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it. So you were here yesterday in the studio talking about wrestling and stuff.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking a little bit because as a kid, I loved wrestling too. And, and I asked you, like, and I followed it probably. I stopped when all that, like, it got NWO and all that. So I just sort of stopped not long after Andre the Giant got bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After,
the glory years.
Yeah, those years.
Like, we're very lucky to have grown up in a time when it was at its peak.
Like, Undertaker coming in and winning was the end. That was where I stopped.
Yeah.
And everything after that, I was like, nah, whatever. But always respected it. And I grew up, like, I'll never forget, man. It's one of the things. My dad was going to take us to see Andre the Giant against this guy called Killer Khan.
Yeah.
Remember that? Okay.
Yes.
At the Baltimore Civic Center. And my brother and I did something. We were probably like 7 or 8, and I don't remember what the fuck it was, but we got in trouble. My dad's like, go inside, and you sit on that chair, and you sit on that chair. It was like, I remember it being a warm summer day or a warm day. He was out in the garden doing shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not taking you to the wrestling match. And we're like, and we sat on those chairs, and we kept waiting, like, he's going to take us. He's going to take us. And he never fucking took us that night. And we were like, God damn, Dad's serious. You know what? But you know what? First of all, as a dad now, if my kids fucked up, like, God, thank God I don't need to drive them to the city tonight, find parking, you know, all the shit that goes into that. Taking 2 fucking kids to go see wrestling, you know, with all those people around in the Baltimore Civic Center and back in the day.
Okay, man. I can get into all that with my dad.
So, but it dawned on me. I asked you, when did you realize it was fake? And for me, it was like, I played sports my whole life, and I was probably like 10 or 11, maybe a little younger, like that Santa Claus type thing where he goes, Ryan, if we're wrestling and I grab you and I throw you against the ropes, what would you do? I said, well, I'd grab the ropes and hold on so I don't bounce off. And he goes, exactly. And then I was like,
who said that to you?
My dad. He's like, this is how, because he would always say, the second guy coming out's going to win. We're like, how does he know? Like every time. And then when he said that, like, yeah, of course I'd grab the fucking ropes and not bounce off so you could clothesline me or put a boot in my face. And that's when I realized, oh, that guy doesn't have to come back. And I was like, oh, son of a bitch, it's fake. It is fake. But I know the shit gets real in the ring and all that stuff.
So I don't even know. I don't even know how to approach this because you talk about HoneyDew moments. So my biggest fear is how they're going to edit it. Like, I can't wait to see how it comes out. But like, wrestling fans are so passionate that I talked to Joey Diaz about it. And he was like, dog, I don't mess with wrestling fans. I'm like, Uncle Joe, he doesn't mess with wrestling fans?
Of all the shit.
Yeah, he goes, everything he's done. Prison.
Right, yeah, inmates and everything.
All of it. He goes, dog, I don't mess with wrestling. Those people are passionate. And the thing is, like, I feel blessed. Like, and I honestly use that word because I caught wrestling in what I would call the glory years. Like that build up to WrestleMania. That was a huge deal for me.
For me, it was Bob Backlund loses to Iron Sheik. Yep. Hulk Hogan comes in and wrestling is reborn into this
Hulkamania.
Hulkamania takes it, and that's pretty much where I got off the train. I was on the Hulkamania mob.
Yeah, me too. I was but then I got back on, like in college, right after college, when the Monday Night Wars, and that was incredible. Like I think that was the last time it was magic Like, and I knew what it was then. The business was exposed, as they said. But
so now you're appreciating all the choreography and
the
all
storylines.
Yeah.
The storytelling is something I've always admired. But getting back to like the legitimacy of it, I guess it was something my dad enjoyed sharing with us, because he would take us to the Philadelphia Spectrum, like, and I do remember you talk about like all that chaos.
Yeah,
I remember there was like a ramp that like cars would drive down to get into the Spectrum, but it was Iron Mike Sharp walking. There was a motel across the street from the Spectrum, and Iron Mike Sharp is smoking a cigar, just walking down, and wrestling fans are giving him the business.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, like I mean, I think these are gladiators walking into the, and then he gets into it with a fan, and then there's just a whiskey bottle that gets thrown at him. Like, psh, my dad's like, time to go, buddy.
Philly Spectrum.
Yeah, and my mom's with us, and she was like, what are you taking the boys to? He's like, babe, this is part of our culture. It's an aspect of culture. It's not high culture, but it's culture.
Yeah,
he's like, don't worry, I'll take them to the symphony after this. We never went to the symphony. And I remember that electricity, and I remember like even my dad like talking to the security guard guy, like, and he was just like, you're fine tonight because Roddy Piper isn't wrestling. But he goes, when Roddy comes to town, don't bring the kids because he makes it near riot.
That was one of your close friends.
Yeah, so it's there's so much to it. Like, I remember when it started to dawn on me, it might not be what I thought it was.
You talking about wrestling?
Wrestling.
I thought you were about to talk about Roddy passing the way you sighed. I really thought you were getting emotional about Roddy.
So I remember.
You're talking about when you found out it's fake. I thought you were talking about Roddy Piper's death. You're talking about the death of wrestling
all right, I'm gonna. Okay. This is how much of an idiot I am, and I'm going to try to phrase this. I'm going to try to phrase this in a way where I don't ruin anything.
Mr. T wrestled. He even got into it. Everybody got into it.
Oh, bro. The greatest.
All right, let's hear about the death of wrestling to you when you really...
Well, this is just what an optimist I am, and I'm going to phrase this in a way where... Because I don't know if little kids are listening to this, okay?
I doubt it.
But they could be.
They could be.
And I would never want to be... You know how wrestling got exposed? Well, let's just talk about the Christmas spirit and what's involved with the Christmas spirit. I won't even say the word.
Mm-hmm.
My younger brother, my younger brother told me his thoughts on that, and I was devastated. But you know what my response was? Like, he's in his bed, I'm in my bed, and he's explaining to me his case about what was really happening.
Laying it out for you.
Yeah, and I was crushed.
Seeing some things here.
Yeah, and then I went like this. I went, well, we still have the Tooth Fairy. And he was like, he's looking
and he's your younger brother.
My younger brother.
Yeah, that's what's
and he was
even
like,
better.
what? I go, bro, you might be right about that, but we got the Easter Bunny.
I got all these
we
teeth
got
to
the
lose,
Tooth
bro.
Fairy. And he was like, what is wrong with you? He was like, if what I'm telling you is true, then it's all. Okay, so that's just my mentality.
So if Christmas is a lie, it's all a lie.
Right. So my dad, I went to my dad with like my hat in hand, and I'm like, these kids are saying these things. And he goes, listen, buddy. I remember this. He was in his recliner. Like, the only joy he had, he had this recliner we got like on a closeout at Sears, and he would come in. I don't know how my dad did it. I don't know how they do it. But his favorite move was coming in, taking off his work pants, he would have me and my brother fight. This is how well we were trained. We were trained like attack dogs. And we would each take off one of his cowboy boots.
Yeah, he wore cowboy boots all day.
Yeah. And then we'd take off his boots, and he'd put on his gray property of the Philadelphia Phillies shorts.
His night pants.
Yeah, and love it. And it was back when the cable boxes were attached.
Yeah.
And he was the only one allowed to remove it from the TV. Yeah. And he's just clicking through it. He's not watching it. He's just like click, 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 click. Down the B, click, click, click. Down to C. And I'm like, I need his attention. Because I had been hearing some things about the business. And I was like, could this be true? And he was like, listen, buddy. I I know you're kind of devastated right now, but trust me, you're going to get into it again on a different level. Like when you're in college, you and your buddies are going to have some laughs with it. And he goes, and there was a kid in the neighborhood. I don't like mentioning names. He was like, that kid is an a-hole.
Asshole. I'll say it for you.
Yeah. And he goes, that kid thinks he knows everything. Let me tell you something. It's not what you think it is. These guys aren't driving around in private jets and limousines. They're probably all packed into rental cars together, trying to save money. And he goes, a lot of bad blood builds up when you live like that. These guys are always hanging out together. A lot of drugs to keep them going. They're all banging the same chicks. Trust me. Trust me. It gets real in there sometimes. And I was like, yeah, he goes, think about it, man. He goes, look how you treat your brother. Doesn't that get real? I'm like, that does get real. And he goes, that Don Morocco, he'll snap somebody's fucking neck. Like, and I was like, yeah. So like, that's the mentality I had with it. But this is like what an idiot I was. And this is like a legit HoneyDew story I wanted. So like, I'm 12 years old, right? And I grew up, I was a decent baseball player. Like I played shortstop, so I wasn't stinky. Mm-hmm. They put me at shortstop. I was the only kid not afraid to be a catcher, so I did that. Mm-hmm. And then I was also a pitcher. I lied and said I could pitch. I remember my first Little League game because when I was 6, they let us hit off a tees or something like that, or 5. No, they had dad's pitch. That's how old school it was.
We had 2 leagues too. We played in a league where they let the kids pitch. Right. Problem was it took forever.
That's my point.
Forever.
So when I was in one neighborhood, they had dad's pitch, and legit, I remember a brawl breaking out. Dads were drinking beers, and somebody brushed back. Yeah, somebody brushed back a 6-year-old.
In Philly, of course.
For real. I remember that. I was horrified. I'm 6, and I'm like, what is? I was like, where's my dad?
A 6-year-old.
Yeah, and my dad was at work. My mom's like, Jesus, Marion Johnson, like pulling me out of the way, and I'm like, Mom, I got a bat. Get behind
the
me.
Bottle.
Yeah, oh, bro. So then we moved to a nicer neighborhood, and they let the kids pitch. It's the following spring, and I remember being like, yeah, I would lie just so people would like me. And I was like, yeah, I'm awesome. And I remember the first time I couldn't even make it to the plate. And I'm like, how am I going to get through this inning? I learned how to pitch. I played catcher. I was shortstop. Then I was really good at soccer. That was the only sport I was really, because I played all the fat kid positions. I played goalie. I played catcher. And then I tried to play basketball. A
lot of those parents call it Goldie.
Goldie?
Yeah, yeah. I used to hate that. Way to go, Goldie! I'm like, it's not a fucking Goldie.
It's not Goldie Hawn. This isn't Overboard. So, 7th grade, I remember not wanting to play sports and like wanting to ride skateboards and stuff like that. But like that's when like you started to really separate into cool kids and not cool kids. Like middle school's awful. And I remember in 7th grade, all the cool kids went out for the football team, and my mom wasn't having it. And plus, if I had a choice between playing football or going home and having laughs, I was like, I'm not doing anything. But I knew like sports were important, like if you wanted to get chicks. So then they announced we're having an information meeting for wrestling. We have a wrestling team here at Nether Providence Middle School. And I'm like, finally, I can get behind this. And I know this sounds like a bit because at 12, you should know more. But I really thought it was professional wrestling. Like when they said wrestling team, I'm like, yes, maybe I could paint my face. Yeah. Maybe I could think, I was like, if I could be from parts unknown.
Yeah, parts unknown.
Right? Like that's what I really wanted.
Parts unknown.
Yeah, I was like, this is my shot. That's the best. So I remember being like, and then there was a couple, because that at 12, that's sort of like when some kids started to pull away from it.
Listen to me, write that down. Your next album, something has got to be called Parts Unknown.
It was the greatest.
Oh, dude.
Right? The missing link from Parts Unknown. It was the greatest thing ever. So I was into it. That's like the WrestleMania years. I used to buy the magazines and be like, where's this guy from? Who's Ric Flair? And then there was a glorious year when the territories were fighting over Philadelphia. And you had NWA wrestling at the Civic Center and the WWF wrestling at the Spectrum. It was glorious.
At the same time, same night?
Yeah, maybe not the same night, but around the same time.
Sure.
And this is when Dusty Rhodes was feuding with Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan was feuding with Piper. It was a glorious time to be 12. So they announced the wrestling team. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember an honest to goodness thought I had was if I get into trouble, my older brother was Husky and he was 3 years older. I'm like, if I get into trouble, Chris can just come out of the locker room with a chair. Legit.
That's acceptable.
I was like, hey, if I bite off something I can't chew, I got a brother with a chair. This is legit thoughts I had. So I go to the first meeting, and let me tell you something. The two wrestling coaches we had, number one was Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson was jacked, no lie. Legend had it that he could deadlift over 400 pounds.
Damn.
Yeah, and when you're like 7, and he like and he also let out a legendary fart in my older brother's class, where he was known as Mr. Fergen Cranker, because he said because he would drink protein shakes and stuff all the time because he was jacked. So my brother said they were taking a test, and it's quiet, and he taught science, and everybody's taking a test, and he said he got the name Fergen Cranker because he was up there when all the kids were taking the test, and he said, you just heard this. Like it went up, it cranked up. So like I remember going, my older brother's now in high school. He's like a freshman. I'm in 7th grade. And he was like, oh, you're going to go out for wrestling with Mr. Fergen Cranker? And I was like, Fergen Cranker. So now he comes in and he's all jacked, and it was Mr. Tagliatera was his co-coach. Mr. Tag, he was a high school football coach. Now he's like picking up probably, another check to be a middle school. You look at it like that. Yeah. And they come in, bro, and it's like that scene in Stripes, like where everybody's having laughs until Hulka walks in. And I'm like, this is my chance to get chicks. Finally a sport I understand.
Yeah.
And then these guys come in and close the door, and you could tell right away it's business. And they're addressing us like we had just enlisted in the Marines. And this is an informational meeting. And they start explaining it, and I'm like, there's a disconnect here. Like, they're talking about all the conditioning involved. My conditioning. So I was a chubby kid, Conditioning involved. And then the basic, they're going over like, we're going to, like, this is the up. You're going to start an up and down. And I'm like,
well, when do we learn to sleeper hold?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So there was another fat kid there. I forget his name, but I remember we both had that confused look on our faces. Like as they're explaining stuff. So now, and then there were kids whose dads like wrestled and stuff, like kids that already had the wrestling haircut.
Yeah.
Like the dude from Vision Quest that was carrying a log on his back. Yeah. They're ready to go to war. They're in 7th grade. But some of those kids had already been wrestling since they were 4.
Right.
Because they had lunatic dads. And they're like, I'm going to kill this. My buddy Al Savios, his brother wrestled at Pitt. He was ready to go to war. Like these dudes were locked. Chris Katona, his dad wrestled. They're all ready to go. And it's like me and this other fat kid that are perplexed, right? So Mr. Ferg is like, all right, they go over the basics, and he goes, does anybody have any questions? And I see I'm about to raise my hand, right? And the fat kid's looking at me, and I'm looking at the fat kid. So then he raises his hand, and he was like, let's say, Mike, what's your question? He goes, where do they keep the ring? And you just see Mr. Ferg look at Mr. Tag, and they're like, it's not that kind of wrestling. And I was like, taking my hand out. They were like, Steve, do you have a question? I'm like, nope. So then I go to the first practice. That other fat kid already cut bait. He was like, I'm done. If I can't hit somebody with a chair, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, no shit.
So I remember being like, well, maybe this is how Hulk Hogan started. And it's terrible. And I was chubby, and like I was kind of a smart ass too. Like I would like want to get laughs to take your attention off the fact that I was terrible. And you're an idiot when you're 12. And I remember the coaches would like, there was this other kid. He was a man at 12 years old. This dude, Bobby Butler. He was the type of dude that wore those tinted 80s style glasses.
Yeah, I know.
When we got to high school, he had like a souped up car that he would reverse into the spot so everybody would know he was a badass. The coaches, to punish me, because I was probably wrestling at like 3 weight classes above where I should be, at least. I was chubby. We would have to run with somebody on our back, and they'd be like, Simeone, you take Bobby Butler.
On your back?
On my back. You'd have to carry him.
Yeah.
And he must have outweighed me by 40. He was our heavyweight.
Damn.
And I think I wrestled at 119, and I should have been wrestling at like 70, to be honest with you, because I was a little kid. And
just curious if you remember, what was heavyweight for that age
I don't know,
then?
probably like 165.
He was that big?
Probably, yeah.
God damn. That's big.
He was
for
a big kid, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm getting tortured. And I remember the first practice, I just didn't know what was going on. And this kid's trying to give me the business, and I just like ran away. And he was like, "That's the doggy escape. Way to go, Simeone." That's the only compliment I got. It's the only one I got. Every match, this is not an exaggeration for comedic purposes. You come out and you shake hands with somebody. It was handshake,
Foot on the line. Yeah.
pin. I got pinned every match, not once in a while.
Not just lost. You got pinned. Yeah.
First period.
Yeah.
Like I never survived the first period. And I remember like that nervous feeling I'd get in my stomach, like when we're taking the bus to go wrestle, and then you have to look at the sheet and see who you got to wrestle. I always had like some kid with the 13-year-old mustache. I'm like, this kid's carrying a knife. I got to wrestle the kid with a mustache. His kids are in the stands watching. You know what I mean? And then everybody would be like, you got to wrestle a kid. He's got pubes. And there was nothing worse where like they'd get you in a headlock.
Oh, yeah. Put that stank on your face.
Yeah, it was awful.
And, shit.
And for whatever reason, I was always at like the most competitive weight. It was a disaster. And I remember making it through the season. And I'm like, I'm done here. I'm like, because I remember, I don't know where this came from. I don't know if my parents told me this, but I always felt like if you made the commitment, you had to see it through. And it was horrible, like humiliating, like it was physically exhausting, but it was also humiliating. Like middle school sucks bad enough. And then like you're done with the classes and you're like, now I got to go to practice, and wrestling season's long. It's a long one. And I'm like, I'm never doing this again. But then we had a party at Jamie Feller's house afterwards, and he had a really nice house, and all the parents were there and stuff. And I had so many laughs with my buddies because I was like seventh grade, that my go-to move was I would drink soda and laugh and make it come out of my nose. I don't know how I could do it. And then I would let it collect in the glass again and then drink.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
but everybody was like, Steve. So I show up at the party like in a fat kid Hawaiian shirt. Like, season, I have like a bubblegum cigar. Like, boys, we made it through the season. And then the guys loved having me hang out so much. They were like, are you going to wrestle again next year? And I was like, absolutely. And I'm like, what did I say? And then I did it again 8th grade. And the only difference was there was one match where I made it to the 3rd period.
All right. There you go. Did you wrestle in high school?
No. And the coaches had already, like, they'd gone through the middle school roster, and certain people were asked.
Yeah.
I was not asked.
Oh, you weren't even asked? You got HoneyDew.
Well, like, some of the other dudes were, they were like, dude, you make practice fun. Because, like, I would always have laughs with the guys and stuff, but I was terrible.
I wrestled in high school. I played basketball. So it was a winter sport where we were from. Basketball, I played my freshman year and just didn't like it. I mean, I played my whole life, and I just didn't like that coach. I just didn't like the guys that were on the wrestling team. I liked better anyway. So the next year, my sophomore year, I started wrestling, and I had only dabbled in wrestling in middle school, like you say as well. But I remember my brother also wrestled, and we went to this high school in Maryland. It was called Athelton, and he got stuck with like one of the best kids in the state.
Yeah.
And I had to wrestle that night. I was JV 10th, but they didn't have a weight class to fill on varsity. Exactly. So they bring you up. So now I'm wrestling my first varsity match, and I'm going against the senior quarterback for the Athelton High School, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I'm giving up weight too. I'm giving up like 10 pounds. So I'm weighing in I got my whole fucking, usually you weigh in your underwear or naked if you have to. I got my whole fucking sweatsuit on. My headgear's hanging from my side, and I'm eating a cup of pudding on the scale, and it's not moving. And I was like, God. And I knew if it was a fat guy, I could beat him. 10 pounds of fat, I was strong. I could get that. 10 pounds of muscle, I knew I couldn't. But my only saving grace was, I'm not going to let you fucking pin me. And that's all I would do. I would get out of there with mat burn on my forehead from them just half Nelson and rub my face across. And I wouldn't go. It's like, awful. God damn. Because you lose, if you, whatever the points are, you get a point. I think it's 6 points, I think. Team points if you pin, whatever it is. It's much more.
So you're like, you just want to survive.
You just want to survive. That's what the coach is like, just don't get pinned. Just don't get pinned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can't lose those points. My brother goes out. And I mean, It's the fastest pin I've ever even heard of. He got pinned in 6 seconds.
Okay, I
Like the
was
dude
in that range.
stuck him and boom, 6 seconds. And to this day, I still tell him people ride bulls longer. People ride bulls longer than that, dude. You got pinned in 6. Like it has to pretty much be a takedown and pin. But I'll tell you the best moment I ever had in wrestling. Immediately followed by the coach shitting on it, but I don't think he meant to. Yeah. He was just one of those guys that, meant well but couldn't say it. He was a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
We had a holiday tournament, and it was like, I don't know, 15, 20 schools all come. And it was during the winter break when everyone else is off, but, you're wrestling. You're getting at it. You're still practicing.
Dude, in high school, that's the real deal.
Everyone else is enjoying Christmas break and stuff, but you're working. You're working wrestling every day. But I loved it. I mean, at that point, my dad had just died in November. So this is a February tournament. We've just been made to move in with our mom. We are pissed off fucking kids.
Yeah.
And again, here it comes. I got to wrestle this guy from Gilman.
I remember that name. That was like a prep school or something.
It sure
right?
was, yep. And this dude was yoked. And this time I'm giving up 20 pounds.
That should be illegal.
We had nobody to fill it in. So he's 185. And I'm like 165, 170. Wow. Yeah, I'm 10th grade, 165. He's like 185. 10th grader. And he's gonna kill me.
Yeah, he's probably a senior.
He looks like the dude from Vision Quest. Yeah. The guy he ends up wrestling. That dude. I mean, he's shoot. Look, he's been wrestling his whole life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That kid. And I'm like, fucking. The coach is like, just don't get pinned. But I am so sad and I am so angry and I just want to take it out on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
But I know I'm probably going to get my ass kicked.
Yeah.
And we lock heads, and, you just feel that. When somebody grabs the back of your neck, you're like, God damn. You just feel their strength. And I chuck him to the side a little bit, and he sticks his neck out just a tad too far, and I threw a fucking headlock on this motherfucker, and I flipped him like lateral drop. Bam! I drop him. I fucking throw it, and immediately I'm like, Ryan, if you don't pin this kid, he's gonna get up and he's gonna fucking kill you. And I mean, I'm so pissed at everything in life right now, though. I give him everything, and I take his arm and I throw it over his face like that, and then I rock up and I am squeezing, and I'm like, come on, I know he's pinned, and he's not, and I'm still going and still going. This is lasting like 5-6 seconds.
Does the referee have his hand up like this?
He slid in like, yep. And boom, he hits it. And dude, I fucking got him.
Dude, I want to hug you right now.
I was so, before I could be excited, I was relieved that I wasn't about to get my ass kicked. This kid did not want to shake my hand, that kind of shit. He knew he made a mistake, and I stuck him, and I was strong. Plus, he didn't know what the fuck I was going through. I had so much pent up shit going on. And then I went down in the locker room, and I just started crying, like happy for myself. You know what I mean? I was like, that was for my dad right there. I was fucking, it felt great. That's incredible. And then we get on the bus to go home, and it was 17 seconds. I remember, I'm pretty sure, and it was the fastest pin of the whole tournament.
Wow.
And my coach is giving out like awards on the bus, and we're going back like, all right, everybody, this and this and this. And this award goes to the guy who shouldn't have won, but he did. And I was like, what the fuck kind of motivation is that? I just had a great moment here.
That is the most negative East
That's what
Coast
I'm saying.
thing.
It went right fucking down. Like, God damn,
that's
man.
awful. We should track that dude. Whoever that guy was, if he's still alive, we should give him the Goodfellas treatment.
Like
the mailman.
Singer.
Excuse me. And we should just grab that dude and throw him a beating.
He's what he's.
That's terrible.
He was a good guy, though. He just didn't. He was just an oaf. You know what I mean?
An idiot.
Wrestling. I wouldn't say he's an idiot. He was just
that's an idiotic thing to say.
That was an idiotic thing to say, but I know from his heart he didn't mean it like that. But I was just like, Jesus Christ. From the guy that should have never won.
Could you imagine, like, the coach of USA Hockey after they beat the Russians? Well,
that's right.
We got lucky today, I guess.
Yeah, as a coach, you should never. And I was like, I'm riding high. You know what I mean?
He should have taken that confidence in you and turned you into a world champion. That's incredible.
I couldn't believe it. It was so great. Just an all wonderful moment, and then just shit on it.
And that's how you make a comedian. So, I've never had an athletic moment like that where it like.
I've been lucky. I've had a few, man. I've had a few where, like, soccer, was my sport, and I remember we were down by a goal with, like, I don't know, less than a minute to play. You know, the ref had already given that sign. And we
Yeah.
go down the field, boom, I score. We get the ball again, boom, I score again. And
In
we
a
win.
minute?
Yeah, and we win the game. I've had
How old
moments
were
like
you?
that, like middle school.
Wow.
I had high school. We were a good team. We were ranked in the state.
In
but-
soccer?
Yeah,
Yeah, Maryland's a good soccer
we were
state.
good. We were good. We got better because a huge core of the same kids would play
That's how you
rec
build a
ball
team.
together,
Yeah.
indoor together,
That's how you
outdoor
build a
together.
team,
And then
yeah.
when we got to high school, we were very comfortable with one another, and we knew each other's strengths and weaknesses and how we could help each other out, and we were good. We were a good team.
Yeah, my buddy Stevie Warren was an amazing soccer player from the time we were kids. And when he was a senior, they won a state championship. And it was because they'd been playing it, the core of that team had been playing together since they were 6, 7 years old. And that's what it takes, you know? It takes a long time.
I'll tell you, this is one of my favorite little like bad news bears scenarios that happened in my life. It was HoneyDews that turned it around. Okay,
Yeah.
so you know we always played on these rec teams every Saturday. You'd get up and miss Saturday morning cartoons or wrestling. You'd miss
Yeah.
wrestling to go play sports because you know sports were just everything.
Yeah.
And I would try out for this one team. They were called Freedom Optimist, and they were very cliquey with their family, and they already knew who they would want on their team. But these were the travel teams. I was good, and I wanted to play on a travel team because that's just where the better kids played, and I wanted better competition. My brother, too. And they would cut us. I think my brother might have made it one time, but I got cut. And a lot of kids did.
Yeah. Travel team was a big deal.
So these other parents decided, well, they don't have to be the only team in the county. Like, fuck them. We'll make our own team.
Cool.
So we created a team called South Carroll.
Okay.
And we brought all the kids that got cut by that team and then went out and found other kids that got cut from other teams in the county.
This sounds like a Disney movie.
The HoneyDews, bro. I'm telling you.
You
this,
should write a movie called The HoneyDews. Go
and
ahead.
put these kids together. And we were fucking good. We weren't just – and here's the thing, too. Like, you would think that our goal was to go beat this team, this freedom team that would cut all of us and stuff, which it was. It was certainly a goal. It wasn't the goal.
Right.
The goal was to go after this team called Deer Park, who was the fucking Yankees, thank you, of Little League. You know what I mean? They were the shit. And you were just a stepping stone to them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people would stop their focus on, I'm going to get the, no. We're going to get you on the way to something else. We got bigger fucking fish to fry. Dude, we had just shitty long sleeve uniforms that said South Carroll on them and stuff. But then we started getting good. We got the sleek Umbros. We had some parents that gave a little bit of money. Our friend Shannon's dad, Mr. Roy, would start putting money and buy the uniforms for the kids. And dude, we got good. And every year we'd whip freedom. We'd whip their ass. People started leaving them to come to us because we were so good. And we went and we fucking took out Deer Park. We took them out.
How long did that take?
Maybe 2 seasons.
That's it?
We were good, man. The first time we were like, okay, all right, we see what it's about. And the second time we're like, we're coming for your ass again. And we got them. We got them
like
a
the
bunch.
end of Bad News Bears.
Yep.
You could take this trophy and shove it up. Yeah.
Shove it straight up your ass. We'll see you next year. Yep.
Yeah.
And then beer all over everybody and cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we were good. So it was, you know, we ended up like Rodney Dangerfield already did this movie called it Ladybugs.
I
It was
never
like a
saw that
girl's
one. I remember
soccer,
going, I love Rodney.
But you know,
what do you think the mentality was that brought that team together? Because that's incredible. Because like
I'll
you're
tell
talking,
you.
okay, yeah,
His name was Bill Huffman.
yeah,
He was a dad, and he loved World Cup. He studied the German soccer team, and he watched that whole thing. Phil Jackson with the triangles. That's all we did was run triangles.
wow,
So if you and I are here, and one person's here, and that guy's got the ball, his options are really 3. It's either to pass it to me, he can pass it to you diagonal, but there's a defender here, or you hustle to this. If you look at it you're running a triangle within a square, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you hustle to that corner over there, he now has you to pass to there and me to pass to here. He passes it to me, you sprint back to this corner. Now I've got 2 outlets, and we would just run triangles.
How old were you when you guys were running this kind of offense?
Like early middle school, 7th grade.
Wow.
And he's teaching us strong side, weak side, strong side's the side with the ball, weak side's the side without. And you come down the field on the strong side and you cross it. And we were like, what? And you put it to the weak side. Now they got the ball and it shifts the defense. And dude, you're running triangle. Dude, We were fucking good, man. We got really good. We got good at indoor. We got good at all of it. That dude, and he always had the white spit in the corners of his mouth.
Yeah. The coach
and
spit.
He was built like Fred Flintstone. He'd be yelling at you and shit. He had pants on, you know. And, and we had these long sleeves, and he had this nervous habit. Like when he would sub you back in after giving you a break, he'd go, get over here, Steve, and he'd grab you. And while he's watching the game, he's taking your sleeve, he's rolling it up and down your arm, and we're all just standing there like. But he would do it to everybody. He'd be getting nervous, like, all right, he's grabbing you, rolling it. He's like, all right, get in there, and he'd run in. Oh, he was a yeller.
He cared so much.
But here's another thing, and my stepson had my stepson had a coach like this too. He was a great coach. If you listen to what he was saying, you were like, fuck yeah. But he was a yeller.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just hear yelling and think negative. But he was yelling. It was always like, great job. You know what I mean? Good hustle. But it's loud. And a lot of people, that disorients them and shit, especially when you're in a gymnasium like basketball or wrestling or something. So, we had some really good moments but was all born from being rejected and wanting to be and just believing in yourself. Like Josh Wolf and I talk about this all the time.
I love that dude. Legit love that dude.
Yep. He and I say the same thing. My self-confidence, it's off the charts. If you give me something to do, I really believe in myself enough that if I'm like, I can do that, I can do that. And I can do it well. I believe in that. My self-esteem, no, not always there. You know what I mean? It doesn't match my self-confidence all the time. So, you know, if that was a beauty pageant, I would have never entered it. You know what I mean? But if you're telling me like you're not better than me at sports or whatever, then I'm competitive. I want to fucking play. You know? Well, let's see. I'll go take the kids out in the back and whip their ass in ping pong. I mean, they beat me too, but believe me, when I beat you 21-6 and you're 10, you're gonna fucking hear about it. You've been talking shit over there, all that shit. You know what I mean? I don't care how old you are. If you're gonna talk the talk, walk the walk. And that's another thing too. Please teach your kids how to lose. There's a way to learn. Like the message, they say it all the time, and it's true. You learn way more losing than you ever will winning.
Yeah.
You learn so much more when you lose than you do when you win.
Yeah.
You know, you win because of all the times you've lost.
Yeah.
I mean, there are the Michael Jordans out there. You watch that documentary. I know they say he got cut, but then he grew like 14 inches or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah, if you think about it, the term losing is a misconception. It really is just a learning opportunity.
Yes.
And that comes down, like I had a great coach when I was 8 years old, Mr. Sorelli. And he would tell us that attitude was everything. And it really is, because if you go into it with the attitude of, all right, I'm going to keep on doing this until I get it. Like, I started doing jujitsu as a grown-up, like a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Like, and it's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Like the most.
Did you throw up and stuff when you started?
I remember listening to a podcast with Rogan and David Goggins.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And Goggins, like, they're both like heroes of mine.
Yeah.
And they were talking about it's all mental. It's not physical. So I'm like, I'm listening to this podcast, and they were like, just go suck. Just go suck at something. That's how you're going to learn something. And I'd been wanting to do jujitsu since I saw Hoist Gracie in the 90s. Like, I remember the day I had to sell my baseball cards to pay rent. It was I went to a baseball card shop in Beverly Hills.
Did you?
Yeah. And the guy just didn't want to buy them. But across the street, this is like the year 2000, there was a jiu-jitsu school. And I'm like, that's the stuff I've seen on. And like, I was watching the guys do it, but I had no money. I had no time. And then I listened to this podcast a couple years ago, and I'm in my 40s, dude. And I've never been an athlete. Not an athlete. Never had that mentality that I could do it. Like, I don't have that gene, or like, I don't know. Like, but I decided to, so I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go suck. It's all mental. I remember the first practice. I'm on my back. I can't breathe. I'm dying. I have to pop out. The whole class is going on. I pop out the door. Everybody's like, where's that new guy going? And I just collapsed on the sidewalk. And I'm just like,
did you really?
Yeah, hand the guy, and I'm going like this. I'm going, it's definitely physical too. It's definitely physical too. I'm like, what have I done? Like all that anxiety of being 12 years old and going up for the wrestling team. I'm like, I did it to myself again. But I remember
I did it to myself again.
I remember Eddie Bravo, because I love Eddie. I think he's the sweetest and most interesting dude ever. And he was like, "What? You got started?" I go, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're doing gi?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna." And he was like, "You'll learn some cool collar chokes, whatever." He goes, "After you want to get a base," he goes, "if you want to come over and do no gi," and I was like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Here's the thing." He goes, "You're built for jujitsu." He goes, "Nerds are." He goes like this. He goes, "Nerds are great at jujitsu because they don't have an ego." He was like, "The guys that come to my school that can't handle it," he goes, "they're meatheads, they're jocks, they're guys that excelled at everything, and they're 240 pounds of muscle, and I have 160 blue belt, or 160, I think he said 160-pound purple belt. There's a 240-pound bodybuilder," and he goes, "They just get humbled immediately." And he goes, "Their ego can't take it." He goes, "But a dude like you," he goes, "you could be getting choked out, and you're laughing, going, one day I'm going to learn this."
Yeah, right.
And that's always been my attitude. Like, I remember going, like, it's the most humbling thing ever, but the community of people, you have to quote unquote lose so much to acquire those skills.
It's the same thing I thought about wrestling. Like, I had never wrestled really competitively until 10th grade, and then you're just all of a sudden you're on your back, and you're looking at these lights and you're hearing this boom and you're hearing people clap because you lost, and you're like, oh my God. There was never any sport more true than wrestling. You know what I mean? It is just you out there.
Yeah, no excuses.
No excuses. You know damn well if you cheated yourself, and you know it's gonna, if it cost you, you know everything. It's a great self-esteem sport, I think, also, because it humbles you.
Yeah,
you're right. There's you match up by weight, but skill is everything. It's everything,
dude. I've gotten crushed in jiu-jitsu so often, but the great thing is the attitude of the guys. Like, takes a special person to be able, but like, they're just so cool. And like, there are guys that could literally snap me in two, and you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd. Like, you're talking about dudes that look like school teachers.
That's that bit Sebastian does now about how you can't fight a guy anymore because you don't know who the hell knows MMA.
Like, these guys are so, like, and they're not even breathing heavy, and they can just boom, and you're done. And there's some points where you're like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. But those lessons, like, I learned those lessons with comedy. Like, you're going to bomb, man. And you're going to hear no. And it's going to take however long you think it's going to take. There is no timetable. It's the rest of your life. And it's easy to quit. That's the easiest thing in the world. But if you constantly learn a little more, if you have a good attitude where you're like, what am I learning through this situation? I'm still in the game. You're good, man. It's cool. It really is cool. You learn from losing. So if you, like, I'm just think about what you said. You learn, but it's really not losing, right? Like, if you're learning something.
No, it's not ever losing. I mean, I tell you when I think though the hardest time to lose in life is when you have put all the time and effort in and you've lost and lost and lost, and then you know you're fucking good, and you get up against somebody good and they just edge you out, and you're like, God damn it. You know, like you ever hear those World Series teams or Super Bowl teams, like, we were the better team. We just were the better team, and we just didn't play better that day. Like, that's when losing really sucks, is when you're good at something and you know you fucked up. You know what I mean? Versus, I'm not good at this. I'm coming in as a blank slate, and I'm going to take in everything here. You know? But hell, you probably learn more in the big loss than anything too.
Yeah, and if you, like, everything's a process, you know, and ultimately you're not competing against anybody other than yourself, you know? So if you're constantly evolving and becoming a better version of yourself, you didn't lose. Yeah.
So I wanted to, you brought a list of some other stories I wanted to get into too.
Is that how long we've been talking?
Yeah, brother.
Wow.
See? It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's hear about asking out your crush. How old were you when you asked out your crush?
Dude, okay, I went back yesterday and I listened to the first HoneyDew we did, and I kind of told that story.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah, and I didn't want to do it.
Oh, thank you for doing that. I know you didn't tell any about Fat James and Steve Z.
Yeah, I didn't do any of those, but I was loving listening to us hanging out yesterday. I listened to the whole episode, and I was like, a hot dog. I can't wait to go hang out with my buddy. The absolute best. I'm so happy to be here. I don't even know how to get into these stories. Like, one of the things that I am exploring, like with my new hour of stand-up, if we ever get to do it again, Like the way I kind of looked at my first 3 albums where I was like, they're all the same sort of themes. Celebrate gratitude, celebrate the little things, family, food, fun. And I kind of look at it like there were stories about my brothers. There was stories about my mom, and there were stories about my dad, kind of. Like I do other things, but they're sort of like at the core of every hour. So then I really wanted to do Friends, right? Like I think Friends are like, I mean, after moving to LA and being out here for 20 years, my friends are kind of like, they're family to me, And one of the things I wanted to explore was that some of the best friends I've ever had were people I never should have met in the first place. Like, you ever just have a friend, you're like, why am I even friends with? How did this even happen?
Yeah.
And one of those, I mean, this stuff's hard. I don't even know. Because I started to tell some Fat James stories on stage, and I wanted, because Fat James isn't with us anymore, and I wanted to somehow get in touch with his dad before I would ever do anything with it, and I know you have a big audience, but Oh, you
never have? You haven't gotten in touch with his father? Or
no,
you did?
I got to go through probably, Joey Cerise?
Yes.
Of Jimmy and Joey fame?
Of course.
I think Joe, the greatest. I think maybe he could get me in touch with James's dad, but James was a character and he had a big heart, but he legitimately drove me crazy. I guess I could tell this story. All right, I don't even know how to describe James.
How'd you meet him?
I met him. Okay, so I was living with Stevie at the time, and this all sounds like lies. Stevie was born with severe cerebral palsy, but he was kind of like a thug.
One of those CP thugs?
I'm not lying. Like he would.
Ridiculous to hear that.
he would like smoke weed and get wasted. And he essentially, we were sharing a Section 8 one-bedroom apartment.
Where?
In it was in Hollywood. Before that neighborhood got gentrified, we were at Sunset and McCadden.
Okay, I know exactly where you're at.
And that was a rough,
yes, it was
rough neighborhood at the time. It was so rough that I remember my buddy Jiu-Jitsu Vinny.
Fat James,
Jiu-Jitsu Vinny is arguably one of the toughest guys I ever met in my life. And I remember I didn't have a car, and he was dropping me off at home one night, and he goes, "Hey, Stevie, this is a rough neighborhood." He goes, "You got to be careful. Keep your head on a swivel." And he goes, "Come start training with us on Saturdays." Like, he was legit. Like, when Jiu-Jitsu Vinny is telling you it's a rough neighborhood,
right.
It's time to move.
Yeah, it is. If your neighborhood slogan is "keep your head on a swivel,"
bro, every time I left that apartment, I would hear the opening riff to "Welcome to the Jungle." You remember when Axl Rose stepped off the bus like jung 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 jung? Like, I'd walk out like, "You're in the jungle, baby." There was a motel next to that apartment where it was all transvestite prostitutes. Like, it was disgusting, this neighborhood. It was so bad that like, I remember going out on the road and like Stevie got mugged in that neighborhood. Like, somebody attacked a dude with
cerebral
CP.
palsy guy.
Yeah.
Was he in a chair or
No, he
crutches
is now, I
or
believe.
what was he then?
He had
Walking
difficulty
then?
walking.
Yeah. And they attacked him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Vicious. But he wound up. All right, I guess this is all out there. I have to call him to make sure I'm allowed to say this stuff. But you ever just go through like moments in life and you're like, I don't even know how this is possible. Like, all right, so I was a PA on a Pauly Shore independent movie, right? And I would just pretty much do craft services, carry boxes, do whatever they needed. And we were filming one day, and I see a dude in a Philadelphia Eagles t-shirt who has cerebral palsy, right? So me and Stevie immediately become friends because his heart's so big and his passion for living was so big, and he liked the same football team I liked, and he was also a gym rat, like legit. This dude wound up becoming a competitive bodybuilder. Like, they did experimental surgery and put this pump inside of him
For what?
To try to like balance out his. I don't know. I'm not smart, but like to help him stand a little bit better.
Okay.
And I remember seeing him on a bodybuilding stage, and he was so shredded you could see the implant.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like his best friend was a professional bodybuilder, and he was just the funniest dude ever. Like this is how funny this is a true Stevie Z story. He was working at a private gym in the Valley. Right, because like you would see this dude working out, and it just inspired you to do more.
Sure, yeah, this guy with cerebral palsy.
Yeah,
out there.
hanging and banging
excuse?
at Gold's Gym. Yeah, dude, like the real deal. So he winds up getting a job behind the desk at a private gym in the Valley, and one of the dudes that would come in all the time was Vin Diesel. And this is like Fast and the Furious, peak of Vin Diesel, early 2000s. He's a huge movie star, and he loves Stevie, right? Like because like Stevie had that type of personality, you know, and they would break each other's balls because Stevie is quick. Like, if you can listen to him, if you understand what he's saying, it's always hilarious.
Well, mentally, he's quick.
Yeah.
Not so much on foot.
I could tell you this. All right, I will tell. Hold that point. All right. I can't believe I'm telling these stories. I have to call him before I share any of this. All right. So, anyway, long story short, Vin Diesel and him become buddies. And Vin Diesel's always just trying to break him off cash, like tip him. And Stevie will never take the money. And he was like, no, we're friends. I don't want. And he was like, come on, dude, just put this in your pocket. And he goes, no. Okay. So Stevie's working on a Saturday morning. The phone rings at the gym. Boom, it's Vin Diesel. And he was like, oh, thank God it's you, Stevie. And he goes, I have a buddy that's flying into Burbank from New York. Before he even gets to my place, he wants to grab a workout. Is it okay if he just comes through? He's not a member, but I wanted to give you a heads up. And Stevie goes, yeah. He can do that, but I'm going to need $3.50. And he goes, what? He goes, I'm going to need $3.50. He goes, is that? He goes, yeah, I'll pay whatever the guest fee is. And he goes, it's only $3.50. He goes, yeah, that's all I need is $3.50. He goes, do you need money? He goes, look, I'm always trying to give you money. And he goes, no, I'm good. I just want $3.50. And he goes, well, what do you need $3.50 for? And Stevie goes, because I rented Triple X last night and I want my money back. That movie was terrible. That's how funny. That's how funny Stevie is. So.
That's great.
So he winds up, he had an ex of his that was a lady of suspicious character. Maybe her professional choices, sure. What she did to make a living. I was suspicious, and we're already sharing a 1-bedroom apartment. The way it worked was Stevie would sleep on a futon in the living room, and I got the bedroom because I paid the rent.
Got it.
But he got us a place where the rent was $250
a month.
A month, because it was Section 8 and it was 20 years ago.
Holy shit!
So that allowed me to stay in LA, because if I was just making minimum wage or delivering pizzas or whatever it was, I could come up with $250. All right, so there's now 3 of us in this apartment, and this young lady is just somebody. I don't want to besmirch anybody's character, but I wasn't comfortable with her there. And even if she was, a social worker and the sweetest woman ever, it's still too small of a place. But I was also concerned for Stevie. Like, I didn't understand why Stevie was in a relationship with somebody like this. And I was concerned for him. And I was also like, I wouldn't leave my passport or checks or any cash in the apartment. I took all that stuff with me whenever I left. And I'm like, I can't live like she was supposed to be there a night, and now it's 3 weeks. So I have a heart-to-heart with Stevie, and I had already paid like 6 months rent in advance. I had like saved up a little money, but he needed money desperately, so I'd given him like $1,500. And that last month,
from you, but not Vin Diesel.
Yeah,
come on, bro.
So I have a heart-to-heart with him, and I go, hey man, this is how I feel, and I think we're friends, and I can be this honest. I'm not comfortable with this woman here. And he's taking it all in. And he goes, I understand everything you're saying, but if I have to choose between her and you, I'm choosing her. So, where do you go?
All right.
You move in with the recently divorced 330-pound ex-Elvis impersonator.
Oh, is that what Fat James did?
Yeah, that's how Fat James showed up. Like, bro, if I wrote this verbatim, nobody would believe this
should write
story.
this.
Because the story about Fat James was, like, my heart just goes out to people, right? Like, I remember when I saw Stevie, I'm like, I love this dude. And I remember seeing Fat James at the Comedy Store. Bro, he had the pompadour.
I remember.
And, like, nobody's talking to this dude. Like, you could tell, like, and I remember he had been hanging out for a couple weeks, and I was just like, one of the things I've always tried to do is be that person that'll, if you need a friend, to be your friend, you know? Like, I remember how scary it was for me when I first showed up at the Comedy Store, and the emotional stakes were so high. It wasn't just getting on stage for 3 minutes. It was having the courage to live your dream.
And being in that building around all these people, and you know these legends on the wall, and they've been on that stage. Yeah, it's intimidating as fuck.
It's very intimidating,
Absolutely.
and the stakes are so high.
Mm-hmm. This you've now literally put your feet in the footsteps of your
heroes
dreams
and living your dream.
Absolutely.
So
you're
like
walking in the footsteps of living your dream.
Yeah, and so many
people
are so competitive or so insecure that they want to keep people out.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to invite people in. That's just how I am.
Yes, I'm the same way.
And I remember,
and so is Tom and Christina. That's why we're here.
Yeah, they're
because
like,
they pull up and they invite in. Yes,
that's why I love them. That's why people root for them.
Yes.
Like, so long story short, I see Fat James. I'm like, this dude doesn't have any friends. Let me go talk to him. And I'm like, he's a little bit overbearing. Like, I think would be a nice way to put it. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, we go to Carney's. And I'm not lying. This is like, I've talked to this dude for 12 minutes or whatever. And we go to Carney's, and I'm coming back with the food. And he was like this. He was like, you want some ketchup? And I'm like, what? He goes, you want some ketchup on those fries? And I'm like, I guess. And I go to grab the ketchup, and I squeeze it, and nothing comes out. And he's like, I played a prank on you. I played a prank on you. I put paper in the top of the ketchup. We're already having laughs like best friends. And I'm like,
that's your intro to this.
Because like he was obsessed with like 70s and 80s TV shows. He's like, we're like Potsy and Richie.
Potsy and
I'm
Richie.
like, oh my
That's such
God.
an old ass rap.
So like I walk this dude back to the Comedy Store, and I'm like, I'm never talking to this dude again.
God.
I'm like, I'll never talk to this. Like, I'm like, I learned my lesson. Nobody's talking to this guy for a reason. So I remember it's like 3 days later, I don't have a car. I'm walking to the Comedy Store, and I see this walking from McAdam.
Hollywood.
Yeah, from
Damn,
McAdam.
that's a walk. Yeah,
it was like 200. I did that for a long time, years. I didn't have a car to 2006.
Damn.
So I would make the walk, and I would make the walk not to perform. I'd make the walk to either work the door or just hang out. So I'm walking to the Comedy Store, and I see this convertible come by, and I just see a pompadour, and it's like a Sunfire. It's like a Pontiac Sunfire,
Yeah.
and it drives by, and the license plate say doo-wop. It says doo-wop, and I hear like, pretty little angel lies. And then like, he sees me. He busts a U-turn on Sunset, and he pulls over. He's like, hey, buddy, do you need a ride somewhere? And I'm like, what? And he goes, hop in. So I get in the car. I'm like, he's like, where are you going? I'm like, he's like, to the Comedy Store. And I go to the Comedy Store. He's like, I'll take you. So then I'm in the car, and he was like, I told my dad all about you. I was like, bro, we hung out
my
once.
dad about you.
He was like, I go, Dad, this guy isn't even a friend. We're more like brothers. Like immediately.
He's stepbrothers.
Yeah. And then
And is he doing comedy at the time?
he was signing up for open mics.
Okay.
And then
But he's not doing the Elvis stuff anymore at this point.
at this point, no, but he kept the hair. Like
Got
he
it.
did have a tremendous Sha-na-na pompadour.
Sha-na-na.
So Stevie kicks me out, and I'm like, hey man, I guess you want to be a room, like you want to be roommates. And I'll tell this one story because it's not. There's one involving a special needs person, but the levels that I have to play with.
I'm only laughing because I know how, if you ever tell it, it will be the most respectful, safe way you can tell
Because
it.
I think I remember trying to tell it. I maybe tried to tell this on the feast, or maybe there was one night we did a storyteller show.
We did a
the
live feast at the
Improv.
Hollywood Improv. You and Gareth Reynolds both told stories, then said, "Hey, maybe I shouldn't have those stories." So it got to be a live studio, live in person only. But it was fucking great.
All right.
Tell whatever you're comfortable with.
All right. So I'll just So
I love how it went from "I'm never gonna see this guy again" to "Hey, do you want to be roommates?"
Oh, like instantly. And I loved James. But the truth is, like, he would drive me crazy. Like, his favorite TV show was Friends, right? Like, he loved it. I've never really seen an episode. So what he would do to try to get me to watch it is that he would just laugh really loud. Like try to
So
act
you'd
like
be like,
this
"Oh
is
my god,
so much
right?
fun."
What are you laughing at?"
Yeah.
Oh,
He'd be like, "Ah, you're missing it." And then like,
How
there'd
old
be like
was
a
he?
quiet.
How old was he when you met him?
Grown up. He's well in his 30s.
30s, okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, "James, I'm tired. I don't want to watch anything." "No, I'm not asking you to. You're just missing it, right?" So, like, okay, this is what a character James was. So we're looking at this apartment. We wind up renting an apartment in an all-Russian neighborhood, all-Russian building. But we could afford it. And, like, before, he was like, "Look, I say we get this place." He goes, "It's only a one-bedroom, but it's a..."
Where was it?
It was called the James Terrace Apartments on Hollywood, like Hollywood and Fuller, the two old buildings that are right there.
Because I lived off Sunset and Poinsettia. Or Poinsettia.
Same neighborhood.
And I was going to say, it was
right down
all
the street.
Russian. You could smell cabbage in the air when you walked out.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, that was that neighborhood
Russians,
during that
right
time.
by
Yeah.
Ralph's and everything.
So many hot chicks.
Yes.
So speaking of hot chicks, James is like, "Hey, we're going to be sharing this place, so we have to come up with a system." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "When one of us has a chick in there, we got to put a tie on the door so we know when to take it on the arches." Like, he had just seen so many sitcoms that he felt like this
life was like that.
Yeah, like I remember he was watching Friends, and he was like, "You gotta see this show," and I'm like, "Do I?" He was like, "No, see, there's two guys on the show that are exactly like me and you." He goes, "There's this guy named Joey, who's really good looking and gets all the chicks. That's me." And he goes, "Then there's this other guy who's really nice, but everybody thinks he's gay. That's you." Legit telling me that to my face. Oh my God. So he's legitimate. Like, he would drive me crazy. And here's the thing, dude, I don't have a car and I am working at least 2 jobs in addition to anything, like in addition to Second City classes or trying to do open mics. Like, I worked every job at the Comedy Store. I was working at the Hollywood Gym. I was working at a pizza place. I had done telemarketing. I had done, like, I'm working around the clock. And whenever I would come home, he's overbearing, right? So there were times. All right, I'll just tell the story, and if we have to cut it, or if it's, I just want people to know my intentions are pure, and I'm not trying to make fun of it.
Everyone knows that.
Okay, so there were times where, like, I just had to get out. You know what I mean? Like, because he would just, like, he would stand in the doorway of my bedroom, and just, like, he wouldn't leave me alone. I'm like, "Bro, I stop. No more talking. Get another friend. Like, you can't dump all this on me." So right there at La Brea and Sunset, I think there's still a coffee shop there. It used to be called Cyber Java. I don't know what it's called now, but that was like a little over a block away from where I lived. And I would just go there to write and to get away from James. And there was a dude I became friends with there who had like that rare bone disease where you have like a little tiny body, and he was in a motorized wheelchair. But he was so cool. Like, you don't see the chair, you're just connecting with this human spirit, right? Like, this dude is cool. And like, I was still in my heavy metal phase at the time, and he loved heavy metal, and we would talk about bands, we would talk about comedy. Like, this dude was brilliant, and we would hang out, right? And like, he knew when I was there, I was usually trying to get away from James. So he loved hearing Fat James stories. Like, he would love it. So this one day, I don't even tell James I'm going. I just dip out. Like he like goes to the bathroom and I dip out. So I'm just like, I got to get out. So I go to the coffee shop and Wheels is in there holding court. Like everybody's hanging out with this dude Wheels. Then he sees me. He's like, what's up, Steve? And I'm like, what's up, Wheels? And then he was like, tells his friends and he wheels over and he sees the miserable look on my face. He was like, is it Fat James? I go, yeah, man. He goes, what did he do now? What did he do now? Like he loved it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm telling him stories. Wheels is like, that's awesome. This guy's fantastic. So as we're saying that, who do I see bopping down the street? But it's Fat James, and he's got like one of those puffy hats that like chauffeurs would wear.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was like, where's? And I see Fat James walking down the street like he's looking for me, like I'm a lost child. And he sees me in the window, and he just goes like that, like there you are. Wheels sees that, and he looks at me, and he goes, oh my God. He's real. And I'm like, buddy, you have no idea. So now, Fat James comes barreling into the coffee shop. He doesn't even acknowledge Wheels. And he's just like, where did you go? You had me worried sick. If you're going to leave the apartment, you have to let me know where you're going. And Wheels is like,
he's loving it.
He's
getting a live show.
So now he sees Wheels in the wheelchair and he was like, hey, how's it going? I'm James. He's like, I know who you are. I know who you are. Now, James is like, hey, what do you guys, do you mind if I join you? And he's like, go right ahead. Go right ahead. So I'm like, oh my God. Okay, now, I had a fear. Like, I always have this fear when I'm introducing friends that they're not going to get along. Going back to college, like if I had a college buddy and he's hanging out with my high school friends, I was always afraid they weren't going to. Now, James, biggest heart in the world, but often very childlike. Wheels was very self-conscious, you know? Like, and obviously, like his life is, you talk about a honeydew. That guy had a rough life, worse than all of us. So I was a little bit protective of him a little bit, like, because I never acknowledged it. It's like, I never want to make somebody feel bad. So now James is sitting down and Wheels is loving it, right? Like he just wants to stir the pot. But I'm like, James, please don't say anything that's not sensitive. Like, and James wouldn't do it to be mean. He would just do it because he doesn't think things through. So I'm on thin ice and I'm a little bit nervous. I'm like, James, just don't, because you know, like a little kid will see somebody and they'll be like, does that hurt? And you're like, oh, Jesus, don't, you know what I mean?
Where's the rest of your arm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like we had in second grade, we had a lady that would bring in art and explain art to us, but she had a fake arm. So she'd be like, does anybody have a question about the painting? And every kid would be like, does your arm hurt? Like,
yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Because you're 7. All right. So I'm just praying James doesn't do anything like that. And now James and Wheels start connecting. And it's like, I'm not even at the table. Like, because they were both really in the music. And Wheels is like, I love this guy. I love this guy. Now it's like, I'm not, and they're going back and forth. And I remember looking at James. I'm like, this is a good dude. Like, now we're all, and I go, how could I have ever gotten mad at James? Like, he's really treating this dude with love. And then there was, you know how conversations just die out, right? So everybody's talking and I'm just watching and I'm like, this is great. And then it's just that, right? And that, now James couldn't sit in an awkward moment. Like, that's just not how his brain worked. So it's like, yeah, I love that. Yeah, I have that album. And he was like, yeah, me too. Now I see the wheels turn. There's like an awkward thing.
Whose?
James.
Wheels is wheels. Or Fat James is wheels.
So Fat James, there's an awkward pause, and Fat James looks at Wheels. He looks at Wheels and he goes, what was it?
What was it?
Hand to God. Hand to God. He goes, what was it? Wheels looks at me like, and he looks at James. He goes, what was what? And he goes, how'd you get in the chair?
And he's saying it like he's so caring and everything else.
No, but he was.
Yeah, I know he was.
And he goes, how did you get in the chair? And Wheels is immediately pissed. And he goes, what do you mean, how did I get in the chair? And he goes, what kind of accident was it? And he goes, why would you ask me something like that? And then he goes, He goes, can't you see I'm a birth defect, you stupid mother F? And then he looks at me and he goes, you're right, Steve. This guy is a moron. He doesn't deserve to have friends. So now James is like, you said that about me? You said that about me? And Wheels just starts knocking over chairs. All right there. And he's like, F you, fat James. And he's knocking over chairs. Everybody's looking. And James is like, is it something I said? Is it something I said? I'm like, what do you mean, was it something you said? Yes, it was definitely something you said. I'm like, I can't believe you.
It wasn't something you said.
It was exactly what you said. And he goes, well, I had to know. I'm like, you didn't have to know, James. And he goes, well, it could have been a lot. I go, what do you mean it could have been a lot of things? He goes, well, my cousin Louie fell off a ladder and he's in a wheelchair. I go, James, didn't you notice he had a little tiny puppet body? How high would the ladder have to be? How far is he going to drop? Oh, it still could have been an accident. I go, an accident? What was he, walking through the woods and a wizard put a spell on him? He had tiny little pickle feet. His feet are the size of pickles. You're self-conscious about your weight, and you did that to yourself. You don't think this guy's a little upset at the hand life dealt him?
Oh, my God.
I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, man.
So, like, I just left him at the coffee shop. Then we had that blow up back at the apartment. Because I was just like, you don't think he would have been sensitive? All right.
Oh, my God.
So, if I get James's dad's permission, I'd like to share
That's
that.
not a bad story. It's just a dumb question.
Yeah.
It's
but
an insensitive question that was not led with
Yeah, but he had the
hate
best intent.
yes,
right.
what I'm saying. It doesn't come from a place of malice at all. It's oh my God.
No. So,
Dude.
yeah, we could just end it because
We're going out on that. We're going out on that.
Yeah, I have a lot of Fat James stories. Like that's
Well, you can come back on. We'll share more. But first of all, let me because you came on early and we weren't doing this.
Yeah.
I ask everybody that hasn't come on yet or did and didn't say this, but what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self? Knowing what you know today about the things we've talked about, what would you say to 16-year-old Steve Simeone?
Trust God.
Wow, you're the first person with 2 words. Great. That's great. I want to say something too. So this is it hit me in the middle of this episode, and I was like, remember to say this at the end.
Yeah.
This is my last episode in this studio here. I'm so glad you're my guest because for a lot of reasons, but also this very table that we're sitting at. I don't know if you remember this, but we needed to get this table out here, and I had my daughter, and I couldn't do it. And I hit you up, and you delivered this table out here.
Yeah,
I think that's the first time you might have met Nadav. He might not even remember
because
that.
I felt terrible because I had just gotten crippled in jiu-jitsu. Like, no lie, legitimately crippled. Like, this is all mangled to this day. It's all I tore everything from here to here, and like I couldn't really help carry. I was trying to help carry it, and I couldn't do it. And I remember that.
Yeah, this table we're sitting at.
So it would have been like January or February of last year.
It was.
Yeah.
It was because we started in here, I started in here in March, so it would have been about that.
February. Yeah, because I got crippled in late January.
Well, brother, thank you. Promote, please. One more thing. One more time.
Name of the podcast is called Good Times.
Website, YouTube.
Go to Help Steve Help. We're trying to help some families out of Children's Hospital.
Your albums.
Yeah, I have 2 albums for sale. I stopped selling the first one because the F word was on it, and I didn't want families.
I know you went back and did your stuff clean.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to sell that.
So what
so
can
the
they
2 albums I
subscribe
have, I don't know.
Pandora, you make a Steve Simeone channel.
I'm on Pandora. I'm
Sirius XM.
Yeah, I'm on Sirius XM all the time on the Laugh USA family station.
Is XM even out there anymore? We say Sirius XM.
I don't know.
Or is it just Sirius?
I don't know.
It's just Sirius.
I don't know
either.
I'm not smart.
Well, brother, I love you. Thank you
too.
so much for being on here. This has been awesome. It's been awesome just to fucking hang and laugh with you.
Yeah,
Jesus
man,
Christ, I needed it too.
I needed this.
And for all of you out there, thank you so much as well. Thank you everyone here at YMH. And make sure you go subscribe to my YouTube, youtube.com/rsickler. Again, it'll be a link in the show description, and you can click on, if you're watching on laptop or Android, you can click on right at the end of the episode and subscribe to my YouTube. And also, HoneyDew Patreon. You'll be seeing me promote that and everything. So make sure you subscribe. Submit your story to honeydewpodcast@gmail.com. Just give me a few bullet points. Don't write, the whole story. I want to talk to you about it and learn about it when we talk. So submit your story there, and hopefully we get to do an episode together. And as always, Ryan Sickler on all social media. Talk to you all next week.